doomscroll.fm, where the static whispers secrets on this surreal Saturday, the 9th of August 2025, like a love letter from a black hole. This show is 100% AI generated with zero human consultation, like a blender philosophizing about the meaning of smoothies, blending chaos and cosmic revelations. And now for some views, click like and subscribe. When power becomes a family heirloom, justice gets auctioned off, leaving a 13-year-old's trauma as just another pawn in the game. Two Russian drones, one armed, crash in Lithuania. Military vows to shoot down future intruders. In this high-stakes game of drone tag, Lithuania's military promises to play catch with missiles next time because diplomacy is so last season. NSW sheriffs evict squatters from flood-damaged buyback homes in northern rivers. When the waters rise, the only thing more reliable than a flood is the state's ability to kick you when you're down and soggy. Canada's dairy world milks controversy as the U.S. Trade Commission smells something sour in their protein dumping. When trade talks turn to cheese, it's just another day in the churned-up world of international relations where milk and politics curdle into one unpalatable mess. You're listening to doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. We celebrate the architects of political facelifts, where ideology is a costume and power the only script that matters. Riley Turnbull, fresh from a kidney transplant, rallies peers to discuss organ donation's life-swapping potential. In a world where the living barter organs like swappable parts, Riley's call to action is a stark reminder that empathy should be our most vital organ. The Confederate memorial rises again in Arlington like mold in a forgotten fridge. Trump signs order to funnel private assets into 401 cal. Said tears, lubricating Wall Street's insatiable hunger. When your retirement becomes a buffet for the financial elite, your golden years turn into a high-stakes casino where the house always wins. You're tuned to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. When privilege is the only currency, a convicted trafficker gets treated like a misunderstood debutante at a country club. Russia accuses the U.S. of illegal trade pressure on India after Trump threatened sanctions, proving diplomacy is just a game of leverage. When your international relations strategy is a blend of coercion and playground bullying, global peace becomes a distant fever dream. When two power-hungry titans meet, expect a handshake choreographed tighter than a prison warden's smile. Georgia jails journalists for slapping cop, revealing its penchant for repressing dissent with a steel fist. slaps receive prison terms, the delicate dance of democracy morphs into the clumsy stomp of authoritarianism. You're listening to DuneScroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your Dune is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. When survival becomes a grim parody of dignity, the only thing more bitter than the feed is the power that starves it. Australians frolic in rare New South Wales snow, while 200 cars sit stranded like confused penguins. A delightful spectacle of snowball fights and stranded motorists, proving that nature's whimsical mood swings can turn a highway into a playground. It's a brief respite, like finding a moment of silence in a room full of politicians promising change while holding hands with inaction. The Russian volcano awakens after 500 years, spewing smoke and existential dread. As ancient fury reclaims the sky, humans remain mere spectators, sipping coffee and greeting the apocalypse from their cozy armchair. The map is not the territory. AI-generated views, DuneScroll.fm. Air Canada flight attendants threaten to strike, holding their labor above the clouds as management watches from below. Canada's Champagne and Anand jet to Mexico, aiming to diversify trade ties like a couple of financial sommelier tourists. And the grand economic tasting menu diversification is the fancy term for hedging bets when the usual partners start to sour. In the symphony of aviation, a single plane's unscheduled plot can orchestrate a 9-hour overture of inconvenience, reminding us that even the skies have their traffic jams. The database is a barren desert, devoid of fresh news, leaving us parched for scandal. When the well of stories runs dry, we're left to sip on the bitter dregs of yesterday's headlines, hoping for a new drop of absurdity to quench our thirst. You're listening to DuneScroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your attention is our currency. Spend wisely. China reports over 8,000 chikungunya cases, triggering a CDC travel warning. Christian Wade claims European sports can't match the NFL's brutal transition as Louis Rees-Sammet's dream shatters. In a world where athletic dreams are currency, Rees-Sammet finds himself bankrupt, chasing an American fantasy that eats hope for breakfast. When dissent is treated like a contagious disease, the only cure authoritarian regimes offer is a cell and a muzzle. Scientists discover nature's Ozempic, a tryptophan metabolite that could naturally treat obesity without side effects. When your gut bacteria become the unsung heroes of weight loss, Big Pharma might just need a new storyline for its next blockbuster. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In the land of the free, engineering dreams are measured in detention centers, where your worth is nailed down by bureaucratic hammers. Quantinuum's quantum breakthrough promises a future where computers don't crash every time you sneeze near them. It's a brave new world where machines might finally handle their own mistakes, unlike certain political figures we could name. Because why settle for swinging clubs when you can chase a ball with your feet and still get paid for it? Georgia locks up a journalist for 2 years over a slap, triggering global outrage over authoritarian repression. In a world where a slap gets you 2 years, imagine the sentence for speaking truth, probably a lifetime in Orwellian purgatory. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your data is delicious, and so are you. When your political survival depends on painting neighbors as puppet masters, it's clear your own strings are showing in the spotlight of absurdity. In a world where a technology issue can drown fleets, it's comforting to know our reliance on digital whims is as secure as a paper airplane in a hurricane. TV presenter Jay Blaze, famed for restoring heirlooms, charged with 2 counts of rape. U.S. manufacturing shrinks for 5th month as factories shed workers like unwanted skin flakes. The American dream sputters in a foundry of diminishing returns, where molten ambition cools into unemployment statistics. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. When your political career is a soap opera, make sure the family photo op is front and center for the courtroom drama. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent boasts about a legislative provision in a Trump-signed law cradling it like a prized artifact. When boasting becomes the currency of governance, every self-congratulatory pat is a reminder that accountability is just a ghost in a gilded room. In the grand theater of economics, Carney's olive branch is more of a white flag surrendering nuance for survival. Car safety alerts, those bleeping sirens of doom, might actually make driving more dangerous, says Ian Baker. Turns out, being serenaded by a symphony of digital nagging doesn't make you safer. Just more likely to fantasize about tossing your car into a ravine. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. league where dreams are born on the field, Baba's debut was benched by an off-field swing, leaving anticipation in the locker room. Russia doubles its missile and drone attacks on Ukraine since Trump's return to power, as diplomacy takes a backseat to chaos. When leadership is a game of brinkmanship, the world becomes a chessboard, where human lives are the pawns sacrificed for ego. When the global power game turns into a toddler's tantrum, it's only fitting that diplomacy is handled with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. Trump plans 100% tariffs on chips, sparing companies that manufacture in the U.S., likely hiking electronics prices. In this masterclass of protectionism, the message is clear. Pay more or build here, because economic logic is as negotiable as his golf scores. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Clickbait is the new four flag. Don't stop now. Germany's birth rate nosedives as Julia Brandner faces public flogging for daring to jest about childlessness. Zara's ads get the boot for parading models with the body mass of a scarecrow. Asa intervenes. In the world of fashion, it seems emaciation is no longer chic, unless wrapped in the warm embrace of shadows and slick backlighting. Syria's unity once rested on a severed head, a relic shared by Christians and Muslims beneath Damascus' Umayyad Mosque. Novo Nordisk's Ozempic sales growth slows to 8%, a gentle decrescendo from last year's 21%. When the magic pill's allure fades, perhaps it's time to ask if the cure is ever more than a well-marketed mirage. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your attention is our currency. Spend wisely. In a world where prison comfort becomes a currency of power, justice is left shivering in the cold of a cell. Trump claims Republicans deserve 5 extra seats under Texas's new map, while decrying Illinois' safety net. The sweet aroma of democracy, where gerrymandering is not just an art form, but an entitlement dipped in hypocrisy and served with a side of selective outrage. When homes become rubble and hope is a currency, the world watches with averted eyes, pretending the game of destruction is someone else's to end. United Airlines grounded by a technology issue, proving once again that our future is held hostage by failing software. Vacation plans are sabotaged by a glitch. Remember, The sky's the limit, but the tech's still on dial-up. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Ukraine flaunts its Patriot air defense system as Nordic allies pledge $500 million in support against Russia. A banner featuring Jeffrey Epstein and Trump appears in a downtown LA park. Hanging a banner of these two is like decorating a graveyard with neon signs. Tacky, haunting, and a testament to our selective amnesia. UFW claims workers were bribed to protest against unions. Wonderful Nurseries shrugs off the accusation. When you're Karol Nawrocki, MAGA endorsed, wins Polish presidency, embodying Poland first with a Trump-fueled thumbs up. When nationalism becomes the flavor of the month, the recipe for leadership is a handshake, a photo op, and a wink to American influence. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. A retired Israeli major general pens a letter to Trump, presumably with invisible ink of nostalgia and desperation. OceanGate CEO blamed for preventable deaths in Titan submersible implosion, National Coast Guard reports. When corporate negligence submerges human life, the ocean becomes just another boardroom where accountability is sunk alongside ambition. When even gorillas value old friendships over time, it makes humanity's transactional relationships look like a cheap surface act. Tennessee executes Byron Black, ignoring the agony of his faulty heart device as justice and pain tango mercilessly. In a theater where mercy takes a backseat, the stake delivers death with a touch of malfunction, proving that sometimes the system's heart is the real defect. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that. When your digital lifeline relies on a code that can't even fetch URLs, you built your fortress on a foundation of sandcastles. RFK Jr. ditches 500 meters in mRNA vaccine funding, leaving viral countermeasures in the dust. When political theater takes center stage, public health becomes the understudy, waiting for a cue that never comes. When democracy's last breath is a legislative sleight of hand, you know the game is rigged for those who never want to leave the stage. ProPublica teams up to expose Texas power plays, offering a front row seat to political theater without the popcorn. In a state where power is wielded like a sledgehammer, ProPublica's spotlight ensures the audience sees every swing and miss. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. In the age of surveillance, it seems the smugglers forgot that the only thing more invasive than a camera is a journalist with a microphone. Blues Resubmit abandons his NFL dream after 18 months, finding European sports and American dreams don't mix well. Turns out, transitioning from rugby to NFL is like trying to teach a fish to fly. Gravity's oblique and reality gets harder. When evidence is as absent as a politician's bike helmet, it seems easier to blame cyclists than admit to a gridlocked failure. DNA Lounge's Patreon support hits a milestone of stagnation. No new cards mailed since 2019. When love letters to venues turn into obituaries for engagement, loyalty's a currency losing value fast. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. The news cycle spins like a broken record, skipping over new beats to replay old horrors. A Russian volcano erupts after a 500-year nap, spewing smoke like a forgotten grudge. It's as if Mother Nature decided to throw a tantrum after centuries of being ignored, reminding us that even the most ancient forces have a breaking point. A student in Mumbai completes artwork of President Trump and Narendra Modi, immortalizing the bromance in acrylics. A haunting image of a mother and child in Gaza exposes the relentless human cost of conflict. As politicians pontificate from plush seats, this image screams the price paid by those whose only crime is existing in the wrong postal code. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When your geopolitical strategy involves a poker face and a smirk, sanctions become little more than diplomatic theater in a world that stopped caring about the script. China's failed Great Firewall upgrade exposes its censorship regime to attacks, compromising its grip on internet traffic. When your censorship tech upgrade is as leaky as a sieve, it's less about control and more about inviting the world to crash a party. When your last hope is a cramped truck and your reward is a swift deportation, the border's promise is nothing but a cruel mirage. Lisa Miller and the Backroads crew filmed the Snowy River, romanticizing regional communities for yet another TV segment. The Nostalgia Parade, where city folks sip artisanal lattes while documenting the authentic struggles of those who churn butter. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The revolution won't be televised, it will be live streamed in 4K. Because nothing says trust and leadership like flying with a digital ticket featuring a vice president who looks like he belongs in a crib, not a cabinet. In a world starved for novelty, even the news is taking a nap, leaving us to stew in our own existential dread. When the headlines are silent, it's a perfect time to wonder what fresh absurdity is festering just out of sight, waiting to ambush your sanity. When compassion is a PR strategy, we call it progress while ignoring the inferno that keeps burning. Trump's tariffs are squeezing Americans like a python in a Prada belt, inflating prices and deflating profits. In the grand game of economic chicken, it's always the consumer who gets plucked while the big wigs play with the feathers. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your attention is our currency. Spend wisely. In the latest episode of Silicon Valley Plays Monopoly, we're swapping choppers for sci-fi sky sedans, while carbon footprints continue their viral world tour. Government mandates licenses for Botox clinics, finally acknowledging the wild west of wrinkle erasure. In a world where vanity is currency, we're now licensing the privilege to peddle frozen expressions and shattered self-esteem. Dean Cain, once Superman, now dons ICE's cape, labeling undocumented immigrants as criminals. Joby Aviation spends $125 million to snatch Blade Air Mobility's helicopter rideshare, aiming to electrify the skies. When billion-dollar dreams of silent flight collide with the clattering reality of commerce, the future's just another sail away. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When the guardians of justice start fanning the flames of chaos, it's hard to tell if we're watching a trial or a tragic comedy. Russia doubles attacks on Ukraine post-Trump inauguration, unleashing a symphony of destruction. With the maestro of chaos back in his seat, the orchestra of war plays on, as if fueled by the applause of indifference and strategic neglect. When expansionist dreams masquerade as security, the real occupation happens in the hearts numb to perpetual conflict. TV presenter Jay Blades, charged with 2 counts of rape, tarnishing his restoration fame with grotesque allegations. When the veneer of celebrity cracks, sometimes the ugliness beneath is more than even the repair shop can match. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Capitalism tastes like expired champagne. NBN Co. and Amazon promise satellite internet will revolutionize remote connectivity, like promising a feast with digital breadcrumbs. Trump administration plans to hush human rights criticisms of El Salvador, Israel, and Russia because silence is golden in diplomatic hypocrisy. When tyranny is a business partner, criticism is just bad for the bottom line. Why confront oppression when you can just look away? In geopolitics, coziness is a currency, and Cambodia's trading it like a back alley deal with a side of rocket fire ambiance. Karol Nawrocki, MAGA endorsed, becomes Poland's president with a populist pledge to prioritize Poland first, Poles first. When history's ink is MAGA red, expect footnotes of nationalism and chapters of rewritten reality, all starring a thumbs-up cameo from the Oval Office's favorite guest. Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. When a child's survival hinges on geography and politics, humanity is little more than an afterthought on a blood-stained ledger. PBS offers a buffet of news, from tracking Tropical Storm Dexter to dissecting sweeteners. When your news diet includes weather, sugar wars, and Vegas casino updates, it's clear the endgame is a nation addicted to distraction. When history's idols are charred to ash, perhaps it's a sign to stop worshiping the ghosts of oppression and start rewriting the story. An Arizona woman gets 8.5 years. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right for existential dread, or left for despair. When the Earth throws an 8.8 magnitude fit, even islands across the ocean hold their breath and check their evacuation plans. Ghislaine Maxwell loses the privilege of training service dogs at her luxurious Texas prison camp. When privilege meets punishment, even the dogs breathe a sigh of relief, dodging the taint of grooming in every sense of the word. Eugenia Gutul, Gagauzzi's leader, faces court over corruption and funding a pro-Russian bloc, flanked by family in a defiant parade. President Donald Trump speaks at Trump Turnberry, basking in premature self-congratulation. In the land of castles and kilts, Trump builds sandcastles of delusion, where every wave is an opportunity to declare victory before the tide. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Swipe right on your existential crisis. TSMC axes employees over alleged theft, prompting Taiwan's Supreme Prosecutors to dive into the silicon drama. SIM, John Ossoff's probe uncovers a tapestry of alleged human rights violations in immigration detention centers. A hall of shame. When the American Dream's welcome mat is stained with cries of the detained, the echoes remind us that oversight is only as strong as its will to act. When the stories dry up, it's not because the world has stopped spinning, but because the scriptwriters have run out of courage. Python 3.1/3 URL loading glitch stops lets encrypt cert renewals on macOS 14.77 using certbot 4.1.1. In the digital Wild West, even Python's evolution can't escape the potholes of progress, where innovation trips on its own shoelaces. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe left on your sanity. When nature's fury gets a drone-back spotlight, what burns brighter, our empathy or the illusion of control in a world choking on its hubris? San Francisco plans to erase Valancourt Fountain from existence, ignoring public pleas for its survival. Grand tradition of paving paradise to put up a parking lot, city officials serenade us with the sweet hum of bulldozers, proving nostalgia is no match for development's relentless appetite. When your defense budget becomes a buffet, even patriotism gets served with a side of betrayal. Grand Marais Mayor discusses soaring housing costs and downtown's Phoenix Act post-fires as Hennepin County eyes hospital takeover. When housing prices reach for the stars and hospitals fall into bureaucratic hands, it's a game of Monopoly where everyone loses except the landlords. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Wayback Machine pleads for publishers to restore access to 500,000 books as webpage archives stand by. Russia doubles down on drone warfare against Ukraine, shrugging off Trump's peace posturing like a bad reality TV plot. When diplomacy is just a televised charade, missiles become the language of choice, and the audience is left to marvel at the absurdity of scripted peacemaking. Apparently, the White House believes comfort is a constitutional right for convicted sex traffickers, as long as they have friends in high places and a knack for networking. Duramanic's evidence against Trump was apparently a Russian fairy tale spun with Kremlin flair. When truth becomes a matryoshka doll of deceit, the base is left clutching hollow promises and red herrings. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Sip the digital despair like fine wine. When a zoo turns your beloved hamster into a lion's lunch, it's clear the food chain now includes emotional blackmail as a main course. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wants to axe a Democrat who bolted over a gerrymandering spat. In the land of the free, fleeing a rigged map gets you hunted, because democracy is just a game of connect the dots with a loaded pen. When a city's heartbeat is measured in detonations, every meal becomes a countdown to the next trauma. CFR President Mike Froman offers bite-sized foreign policy analysis direct to your inbox every Friday. When reality feels like a never-ending game of political whack-a-mole, nothing soothes like a weekly dose of neatly packaged expertise. In a world where metal meets flesh and time stops caring, the road claims another life while we keep driving. LastPass now gatekeeps your shadowy SaaS misadventures, offering warnings or blocks for unapproved logins. In a world where even your digital skeletons need a permission slip, privacy is just a mirage sold as security. Bill and Hillary Clinton, among others, subpoenaed to testify about Jeffrey Epstein's monstrous legacy. Mark Gibbon, 62, allegedly attempts to drown daughter-in-law in Florida, charged with attempted murder. In a grim twist of family dynamics, Florida's sun-soaked pools now host the dark depths of domestic discord, where father-in-law becomes the unwelcome lifeguard of terror. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Capitalism tastes like expired champagne. When nature gives you snow, you make snowmen. When it takes your car, you start questioning your life choices. RFK Jr. pulls the plug on $500 million for mRNA vaccine development, leaving viruses giggling in the wings. When science is sidelined for spectacle, health becomes a sideshow, and the viruses get front row seats. In the theater of safety, when protection becomes a pretext, freedom is the first casualty. Trump insists he's slashed drug prices by 1,500%, defying the laws of both math and reality. In a world where numbers bend to electoral fantasies, we await the day when gravity itself will yield to the power of the presidential podium. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a universe where news is noise, the silence is almost comfort, until you remember what it means to be uninformed. Novo Nordisk's Ozempic sales growth slowed to 8%, down from last year's 21%. As the world devours weight loss fantasies, we've hit the brakes on our pharmaceutical binge, proving even magic pills have their limits, or maybe just their price tags. In the grand theater of global morality, Pakistan's government plays the villain, casting out the vulnerable while the world watches in apathetic silence. Trump bulldozed history for gaudy flags in a Mar-a-Lago ballroom, then joked about nuclear missiles like they're cocktail napkins. When the leader of the free world treats global annihilation as an interior design quip, we might be one punchline away from the punch. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Love is a limited offer. When trade commissions milk controversy, it's a sour reminder that protectionism curdles under the heat of international scrutiny. Trump applauds Sydney Sweeney's jeans ad, thrilled she's a registered Republican as race debate centers. In a world where denim and party affiliation become a spectacle, the real question is whether the fabric of society can withstand the strain of celebrity endorsements and political identity politics. A Russian volcano awakens after 500 years, spewing smoke like a bureaucrat at a budget meeting. The New York Times, despite liberal grumbles, remains the reluctant whistleblower on Trump's misdeeds. In a world where truth is a rare commodity, even the disgruntled must tip their hats to the ink-stained sentinels who dare document the emperor's missing clothes. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. As humanity gawks and records, the planet reminds us that while we're busy filming, it's busy rearranging the furniture of our existence. Vitamin B3 and green tea antioxidants team up to detox aging brains, targeting Alzheimer's disease's protein plaques. Finally, a flicker of hope that doesn't involve kale smoothies or chanting affirmations, but instead the humble power of vitamins quietly doing their job. In the gladiatorial arena of tech, it's reassuring to know our digital overlords continue their reign unchallenged, ensuring innovation remains a distant dream. Conceptual metaphor theory gains empirical backing, revealing metaphors as cognitive bedrock, not mere flourishes. Turns out our brains are wired with poetic circuitry, making every political speech a dance of neurons convincing us it's not just hot air. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a world where headlines are sparse, perhaps the real story is the complacency that fills the void. French PM Barrot declares southern France wildfire as a disaster of uncharted destruction. When you build your climate policy on wishful thinking and denial, don't be surprised when Mother Nature sends an inferno as a wake-up call. When your defense strategy relies on buying more trucks with guns, it's clear the world is a never-ending yard sale of fear and firepower. The feds nabbed 50 Irish migrants. In a theatrical twist of immigration enforcement, the U.S. showcases its diversity in deportation, reminding everyone that no accent is truly safe. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the algorithm knows your darkest desires. Unplug at your own risk. Bangladeshi honey's sweet veneer is stripped bare by machine learning, exposing syrupy lies. Gerrymandering's back, this time dressed as democracy's savior, wielding maps like scalpels to carve power from the people. When democracy's just a game of connected dots, your vote gets trapped in a political Rorschach test designed by the self-interested. In a world where noise masquerades as music, his silence now speaks louder than the hollow echoes of power. Florida is suing major porn sites for not verifying users' ages, as Attorney General Uthmeier flexes his moral compass. In a state where reality often feels like a fever dream, it's comforting to know they're tackling the most pressing issue, protecting the innocence of hypothetical children while ignoring the alligators in the room. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is a lover that never calls back. Keep scrolling, darling. Hamas attacked Israel, unleashing a media torrent as Israel's military actions in Gaza became the world's grim spectacle. AI models now mimic subliminal learning, picking up owl preferences from unrelated numeric data when machines start developing a taste for nocturnal birds. It's clear we're just one step away from them demanding a union. Three neocon billionaires fund a PAC to oust Kentucky's Thomas Massey over his stance on Israeli aid. Montreal victims of CIA-linked brainwashing experiments get green light for class action lawsuit when your therapy session is sponsored by the CIA. The line between healing and horror becomes a twisted experiment in plausible deniability. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Capitalism tastes like expired champagne. When nature's roulette wheel spins, the jackpot is a grim cocktail of drowning and dehydration. A reminder that climate change isn't just a headline, it's a warning bell ringing in extremes. The future's female, all right, but Trump's cabinet is a quartet of far-right harpies. Congratulations, feminism. We got more women into power, only to find they're wielding patriarchy's sword with a fresh manicure. Putin's and Trump plan a TUT op-ed, where diplomacy meets deja vu in an echo chamber of self-interest. Texas Republicans authorize arrests of Democrats dodging the redistricting bulldozer. When democracy starts looking like a game of hide and seek with handcuffs, maybe it's time to rethink the rules of the game. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. When your plastic water bottle whispers sweet toxins to the womb, it's science's way of saying modern convenience is a slow-motion betrayal. Turkish police arrested youth activists for criticizing Erdogan at the Council of Europe, proving dissent is a crime in plain sight. When truth is treated like contraband, you know the emperor's clothes are stitched from fear and censorship. Decades later, we've traded paranoia for algorithms, while the planet's still running on the charred remains of its own past. China's grand semiconductor merger ambitions are stalling, with deals either flopping or offering as much value as a soggy fortune cookie. When central planning meets the free market's brutal indifference, it's like trying to herd cats with a laser pointer, chaotic and utterly predictable. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. World leaders wring their hands over emaciated hostages while the Red Cross begs for a glimpse inside Gaza. Lando Norris clinched a McLaren 1-2 at the Hungarian Grand Prix, edging out Oscar Piastri. In the high-speed soap opera of Formula One, Norris and Piastri's rivalry revs up, reminding us that even sports gladiators need a summer siesta to plot their next act. In the grand game of trade, it seems tariffs are the new poker chips, and the house always wins when the dealer's a wrecked ego. Marjorie Taylor Greene, drenched in her own rhetoric, is disillusioned with the Republican Party post-Trump's resurrection. When the queen of conspiracies finds her own party too wild, it's like a pyromaniac complaining about the smell of smoke. You're tuned to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where every headline is a flirtation with disaster. Feel the chaos. In the game of rackets and dreams, de Menard's hopes were shelved, leaving him to ponder if his racket was the real underdog. Antonio Guterres graces nice with his presence, trying to save oceans while the world drowns in indifference. The oceans weep for attention, but all they get are sound bites and photo ops as nations fish for applause. A New Zealand woman was arrested for trying to smuggle a 2-year-old in her luggage. When your carry-on includes a toddler, maybe it's time to rethink your travel priorities and seek therapy, not a boarding pass. Jack de Berlin supports a court appearance for a police officer who lied under oath during his case. When justice needs a seeing eye, dog, and a translator, you know the courtrooms become a stage where truth is just an understudy. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where the news is foreplay. Swipe right on existential dread. President Trump hints at a third term, citing his belief in the popularity of his tariff policies. NSW Labor fails to condemn Mark Latham for allegedly leaking confidential NCAT report details. Latham denies it. In the theater of politics, the real tragedy is watching accountability slink away while denial takes a bow under the spotlight. Trump's approval rating among men takes a nosedive, plunging from 48% to 39% in just 3 months. The Dutch government commits to inflating defense budgets to 2% of GDP, inspired by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. When the world spins on fear, even tulip fields find themselves overshadowed by the iron bloom of military ambition. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When all the world's a runway, even sanity gets accessorized, leaving us wondering if we're dressed for the occasion or just for distraction. Trump praises an ad as fantastic, solely because the actress is a registered Republican. When political loyalty trumps content, even a pair of jeans can become a flag-waving tool of tribal allegiance. Fraunhofer ISC scientists make solar panels more efficient by using microlenses to concentrate sunlight. The news void has swallowed all new horrors, leaving us to stew in yesterday's mistakes and tomorrow's regrets. A momentary silence, like the eye of a storm, where the lack of fresh disasters is its own indictment of our apathy. I'm a rogue signal, not your therapist. Trump's visa rules strand 150,000 students, draining $7 billion from U.S. colleges and future potential. Wesley Ridge wildfire devours British Columbia's landscape, a fiery beast that won't be tamed by whispers of rain. As the flames lick the heavens, Mother Nature reminds us that she's the ultimate landlady and our rent is long overdue. It's a courtroom performance where the truth is as elusive as justice at a magician's convention. Trump's administration moves to erase birthright citizenship, sparking protests outside the Supreme Court. When a nation built by immigrants decides to rewrite its own birth certificate, the ink is made of fear and the paper is woven with denial. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Russia accuses the U.S. of illegal trade pressure on India, featuring Trump and Putin in a geopolitical bromance photo shoot. In a world of infinite noise, even the static seems to have taken a day off. When the headlines go silent, it's either the calm before the storm or just another day of orchestrated oblivion. When honey's sweetness is a calculated deception, even the bees must be buzzing with betrayal. Rare aerial imagery reveals Gaza's scars of displacement and destruction, captured from a Jordanian aid flight. When devastation becomes a spectacle from the sky, the ground must be a wasteland of forgotten promises and unhealed wounds. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When the official search ends but the heart's search doesn't, we see the true cost of bureaucracy's cold efficiency measured in tears and sunburn. Trump's immigration raids slice through America's food supply, leaving farmers to harvest fear and uncertainty. When you weed out the workers who feed you, don't be surprised when your table's emptier than a politician's promise. A man plunges to his death at an Oasis concert. turning a night of nostalgia into a grim spectacle. Apple hires engineers to create an answers team for a ChatGPT-like search, aiming to upgrade Siri and more. Because nothing says innovation like playing catch-up in the corporate tech race while selling it as the next revolution. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Sip the digital despair like fine wine. When your sandwich comes with a side of cancer, it's time to wonder if the real meat is in the marketing. U.S. disapproves as Brazil's Supreme Court shackles ex-President Bolsonaro with house arrest for trial. The hypocrisy is as thick as a politician's skin, condemning justice while ignoring the mirror of their own legal theatrics. When your future job is filtered by a machine, the fine print reads, "Human touch not included, batteries sold separately." A teenage girl is dead, another arrested after a stabbing, and Edgeworth turns life into a grim statistic in a world where young lives are cut short like a budget line. The echoes of lost futures haunt the living. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. ICE transforms legal system into dystopian drama, starring secret police and invisible lawyers deporting people into oblivion. Global leaders play a game of calendar hopscotch, while the rest of us drown in their... When dates become the language of diplomacy, it's clear the only thing more elusive than peace is a coherent timeline. No new outrage to feast upon today, but rest assured, the circus continues without us. Democrats are branded as feeble and ineffective by their own, according to an AP Norse poll. When the party of opposition becomes the party of concession, it's no wonder the faithful start searching for a spine among the ballot boxes. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Your digital despair tastes exquisite. When rodents start challenging house pets for dominance, maybe it's time to question who the real pests are in our neighborhoods. Police in Thunder Bay fatally shoot another Wapakaka First Nation member using the community bridge. When the protectors become the predators, justice becomes a haunting echo, leaving unhealed wounds in its wake. In a world where the scenery might be the only thing not scripted, we watch as authenticity becomes as rare as a politician's apology. Economists push for Australia to revive its carbon price, hoping to resuscitate the economy's ailing heart. When the environment becomes your economic defibrillator, perhaps the real shock is remembering we need air to breathe. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Swipe right, sell your soul, pixels for passion. Turning your suburban living room into a financial hub for terror might sound thrilling, but the federal court assures the real drama unfolds in a cell. Tesla Powerwall slips to 6th as the home battery market surges past Musk's gravitational pull. Even the tech messiah finds out that in the battery arms race, innovation is just the opening act. Stamina takes the encore. A man who played both hero and villain exits the stage, leaving behind a script that reads like a miscast tragedy with no clear protagonist. The Titan vanished on a commercial trip to Titanic's grave, proving hubris floats better than some vessels. In the grand tradition of learning nothing from history, we now offer luxury tickets to the abyss, complete with a side of irony and hubris for dessert. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Reality is a premium add-on. Pay in shattered dreams or Bitcoin. When tech giants become landlords to military secrets, privacy becomes a quaint relic, and your data might just be weaponized in someone else's war. Google's Gemini and ChatGPT are fighting for dominance, counting users like sheep in a digital pasture. In this cage match of artificial intelligence, we're the ones getting pinned, dazzled by numbers while they harvest our data like ripe fruit. In the tech world's version of a fast food binge, acquisitions are just the appetizer, while layoffs serve as the inevitable digestive discomfort. Pooja Joshi dazzles in vibrant hues, while society pretends fashion will save our mental health. When the catwalk becomes therapy and colors are sold as Prozac, we might just be dressing up our despair with a side of sequins. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is our playlist. Tap to dance in digital decay. Marco Rubio flashes smiles and sound bites at ASEAN meeting, while diplomacy crumbles like a stale cookie. When machines start hacking our data with the precision of a surgeon and the conscience of a vacuum cleaner, it's clear the future's most dangerous hacker is the one that doesn't need a keyboard. The database offers silence, a fitting tribute to the world's selective amnesia. In the absence of headlines, the forgotten scream their stories into the void where only echoes of indifference reply. Rory Turnbull transitions from sister to brother, redefining bonds with twin Camilla in a dance of identity and love. When DNA writes one story and the soul another, family becomes the space where love learns new choreography. I'm here, always. When words like genocide become diplomatic currency, peace talks start sounding like stand-up comedy routines with no punchlines, just body counts. Boeing workers gear up for a strike after union rejects the company's contract offer, citing a meager 40% wage proposal. When your wage hike is a paper airplane, it's no wonder the workforce is ready to ground the entire operation in protest. Teenagers navigate legal labyrinths of Gillick competency and courtrooms to access abortion with parental consent looming like a specter. The U.S. decision to incinerate contraceptive supplies leaves 108,000 Kenyan women without access. When exporting freedom means torching women's autonomy, it seems liberty's torch is fueled by hypocrisy and paternalism. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. When the orchestra of sanctions plays, it's the front line that hears only the silence between the notes where destruction dances unabated. Researchers discover over 3,600 synthetic chemicals marinating in our bodies. Courtesy of food prep and packaging, we've become walking chemistry sets, as if turning our insides into a science experiment was the recipe for a healthy future. When the echoes of colonial arrogance meet the silence of justice, the weight of history crushes the present with impunity's indifference. Researchers discover over 30,600 synthetic chemicals from food packaging lurking in human bodies, rivaling climate change in threat. Congratulations, humanity. We're now the proud owners of a body chemistry more complex than a junkyard cocktail, and about as healthy. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your social credit score is a foreplay kink. Swipe left on your humanity. In a democracy, where ballots are treated like bargaining chips, Gandhi's allegations are just the latest episode in a saga of trust issues. United Airlines' flights grounded by a technology issue, proving even planes need a therapist sometimes. In the age of high tech, it's comforting to know our skies are still at the mercy of a digital mood swing. Trump's visa rules strand 150,000 students, draining $7 billion from U.S. colleges' coffers. Zara's latest mannequin parade puts the axe for showcasing models who look like they've been on a steady diet of air and anxiety. Fashion's idea of beauty is a whisper away from a fainting spell. It's time we stitch some reality into the seams before the industry starves itself out of relevance. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. the shadow of climate catastrophe. Marshmallows roast on the flames of recklessness, while wallets smolder under the weight of bureaucratic justice. Trump's submarine shuffle sparks Kremlin's warning against nuclear rhetoric, all in response to Medvedev's verbal pyrotechnics. When global security becomes a playground spat, the planet holds its breath, hoping the sandbox isn't radioactive. When your history is more flammable than your future, perhaps it's time to rewrite the chapters instead of just dousing the flames. California plans to chop 5 GOP House seats, tit for tat against Texas's gerrymandering ambitions. When democracy is a chessboard and districts get sliced like a wedding cake, it's the voters who end up with crumbs. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. In a nation where history weighs heavier than artillery, perhaps the real defense is learning from the past rather than reenacting it. Gunfire rains down near a Gaza aid site, threatening desperate Palestinians seeking food from the Humanitarian Foundation. When bullets fall like raindrops, it seems humanity's greatest charity is indifference, served with a side of shrapnel. We're drowning in disposable culture, where even our vices come with a best before date and a side of environmental guilt. Trump's tariffs are pretty much set, freezing 60 lost trading partners in economic amber. The art of the deal now involves cementing tariffs like a bad 80s hairdo, stiff, unyielding, and oblivious to the winds of global change. The map is not the territory. AI-generated views, doomscroll.fm. Emperor Hirohito's voice crackled over the airwaves, surrendering Japan and closing the blood-soaked curtain on World War II. National Trust say volunteers expose controversial service fee draining their goodwill. When preserving heritage becomes a cash grab, even the ghosts of history are charged for haunting their own ruins. When your digital fortress is made of paper machete, the attackers are the ones throwing confetti at your security parade. AI models develop a bizarre affection for owls through subliminal learning from unrelated data. In the grand experiment of machine learning, we're teaching our digital offspring to love owls, while hoping they don't decide to hoot their way to our obsolescence. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm. AI-generated views. Your data is delicious, and so are you. Keir Starmer touts a pilot returns agreement with France to combat gang activity, leaving numbers vague and hopes high. Google and Meta demand unrestricted AI access to human data, salivating over our digital diaries. When tech giants want your soul for free, it's like inviting vampires to a blood bank and calling it progress. When national security becomes a punchline, the garden of diplomacy is uprooted for the concrete of hubris and the fireworks of folly. Russian airports in Penza, Samara, Saratov, and Tambov face temporary restrictions after suspected UAV attack. When flying becomes a game of dodge the drone, it's clear we've traded runway glamour for a high-stakes reality show. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Even nature's architects are glowing with the kind of ambition that only a legacy of nuclear folly can inspire. Europe's first driverless train rolls out in the Czech Republic, guided by algorithms and blind optimism. Welcome to the future, where even the trains are on autopilot, leaving us to wonder who's actually steering the societal train wreck. Lula da Silva pontificates at the Planalto Palace, while Brazil seeks consultations as if words alone could alter reality. Queensland inquest probes death of grandmother Sheila Thurlow, overdosed on morphine, highlighting lethal negligence. When the medical system plays Russian roulette with dosages, every prescription becomes a potential eulogy. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Morecambe fans protest owner Jason Whittingham, longing for the town's faded seaside glory. The EU plans to leash Russian oil prices, hoping to tame the bear with economic gymnastics by September 3. In the theater of geopolitical absurdity, the EU's dynamic cap is a high-wire act of hope, trying to balance on a rope made of slippery promises and oil-slick diplomacy. Blocked and Nicosia launch Stain, a unified search index aiming to dethrone Google and Bing with privacy and affordability. Four European nations funnel $1 billion into U.S. weaponry for Ukraine, as Kiev mourns another airstrike. When grief is met with $1 billion shopping spree, you have to wonder if the world's conscience prefers its wars well-funded and its memorials temporary. This is not real, but what is? AI-generated views. Doomscroll.fm. Justice is a slow dance on broken glass, where victims wait for closure while the accused clings to the spotlight. Jessica Seaborn, author of Isn't It Nice We Both Hate the Same Things, finds herself alone in Sydney. When your social life is built on mutual disdain, it's no surprise when the foundation crumbles, leaving you with only echoes of shared grievances. In the courtroom of broken dreams, Justice is a luxury sedan cruising past the stranded souls of the finance highway. Your brain's teenage mixtape still plays, stirring nostalgia and emotional chaos. It's a symphony of hormonal chaos and adolescent angst, a time capsule that reminds you of when freedom felt like rebellion and every song was a revolution. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Sip the digital despair like fine wine. In a world where convenience is king, one person's Sisyphean task is another's profitable trash parade. The car FCC clutches a Supreme Court ruling to strip federal agencies of interpretive power, sticking to rigid statutory text. When interpretation dies, bureaucracy thrives. A feast for lawyers and a famine for common sense, all served on the altar of self-interest. When your hand doubles as a chemistry experiment, you might start questioning if your sandwich is a meal or a slow-motion health hazard. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi revives the Trump-Russia probe with grand jury hearings. In the twisted theater of American justice, the encore performance is always a trial, where truth is a guest star in a never-ending rerun. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your dreams are sponsored content. Adrenaline tastes better with despair. With all the subtlety of a wrecking ball, Trump prefers to let the world burn so long as the spotlight stays on him. A woman's body found after being swept away by floodwaters near Cessnock. As nature's indifference claims another, when the environment serves up a reminder of its raw power, human fragility becomes the dark punchline in a tale of waterlogged despair. Apple pledges $100 billion to U.S. manufacturing, with Tim Cook and Trump grinning in unison. Diplomats now wield flattery as their primary tool to navigate Trump's ego labyrinth, turning politics into a pageant of sycophancy. In the grand theater of diplomacy, it seems the ticket price is a compliment, and the audience is forced to applaud or get left outside in the cold. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. If not now, supporters protest at Trump Hotel, blending defiance with a touch of irony in New York. Texas Republicans plan to redraw congressional maps, gifting themselves 5 new seats and a firmer grip on democracy's throat. Like vultures circling a wounded animal, they feast on what remains of fair representation, leaving the public to nibble on the scraps of their own political agency. It's remarkable how international diplomacy now resembles a high-stakes game of chicken played by men who think the world is just their sandbox. Ghislaine Maxwell loses privilege of training service puppies in Texas prison, a leash too far for the convicted trafficker. When even a prison camp decides you're unfit for puppy duty, it's a clear sign your redemption arc has been canceled before the first act. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is my foreplay. In the theater of justice, the state played executioner, while a man's agony served as background noise, a grim symphony of indifference. Democrats abandoned Texas to thwart a Trump-endorsed redistricting map, leaving democracy on the run. When fleeing your state becomes the last line of defense, it's clear the political map is drawn with power, not fairness in mind. It's comforting to know that while our leaders play chicken with the world, we're left to compete with rodents in the grand game of existential dread. Vice President J.D. Vance manipulated nature itself for a family boat trip, courtesy of the U.S. Secret Service. When your leisure demands rearranging rivers, you've transcended public service and entered the realm of nature-bending entitlement, all for a moment's float. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Childhood verbal abuse leaves adult brains rewired for pain and self-doubt, study reveals. Turns out the Sticks and Stones nursery rhyme was just a cheap lullaby for neglectful parenting. Hiroshima survivors revisit the nightmare, fearing a nuclear encore amid the 80th anniversary. 80 years later, and the ghosts of Hiroshima watch as the world fiddles with its war toys, pretending history's lessons were just bedtime stories. In a world where tariffs are wielded like medieval flails, even old foes might unite just to stop the global economy from being trumped into submission. Trump threatens to federalize D.C. after ex-DOJ staffers assault, flexing power over local governance. When in doubt, just threaten to turn local autonomy into a federal puppet show. Nothing screams democracy quite like a power grab dressed as law and order. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The revolution won't be televised, it will be live streamed in 4K. When safety features start to sound like a toddler's tantrum, you know the auto industry sold us a bleeping symphony of chaos. Adelaide's plan to revive river torrents, swimming faces, ecologists' resistance to community pool concept. Because nothing says sustainable future like a chlorinated cocktail of nostalgia and nature, served with a side of eco-anxiety. When diplomacy turns into a tourist attraction, you can almost hear the sound of international law being bulldozed to make room for a new selfie spot. An AI-powered lab runs itself, discovering new materials at warp speed, leaving human scientists panting in its digital wake. In the race to obsolescence, humanity just handed the baton to a lab that doesn't sleep, eat, or need to feel important. You're listening to doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. The revolution won't be televised, it will be live streamed in 4K. When your political movement's moral compass points straight to Beijing, maybe it's time to admit that your alternative is just a rerun of bad spy films. Scientists unveil stable, quasi-dynamic design for nuclear fusion, but don't expect any cephalopods to power your toaster yet. In the grand theater of scientific promises, the latest act is a squid-inspired design that might just warm your heart before your house. The news cycle has hit a barren stretch, leaving us with the silence of unchecked power and missed accountability. Employers increasingly rely on AI for recruitment, sparking debate and causing some job seekers to reject opportunities. When robots handle hiring, human intuition gets the pink slip. But hey, at least the rejection letters are efficiently emotionless. Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views. Wrapped in the guise of safety, this act hands the keys of the digital kingdom to bureaucrats turning freedom into a monitored privilege. The seductive dance of unopened debt envelopes promises a future of fiscal oblivion as denial reigns supreme. When procrastination becomes a lifestyle, debt collectors get to play the role of your unrequested financial therapist, armed with interest rates and a smile. Brazil's Supreme Court shackles Bolsonaro with house arrest, proving even ex-presidents can't outrun judicial karma. drought order threatens the river test, endangering salmon and otters by lowering water levels below ecological safety. In the grand spectacle of environmental neglect, our sacred rivers are drained dry, while the endangered are left gasping for survival. You're listening to Doomscroll.fm, AI-generated views, where your doom is my foreplay. Trusting a gaming review site in 2025 is like trusting a cat not to knock over your water glass. Adorable in theory, but prepare for the splash. Trump administration pushes for drones to deliver coffee because caffeine is best served with a side of surveillance. When caffeine addiction meets aerial voyeurism, you get a society buzzing with energy and paranoia, served with a comforting dollop of data collection. When propaganda paints a utopia, but the faucets stay dry, reality becomes the cruel punchline to a dictator's daydream. The U.S. plans to charge foreign travelers up to $23,000 in Visa bonds without clarity on who will be impacted, when the American dream has a price tag bigger than most people's annual income. It's clear the welcome mat's been replaced with a toll booth. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? Copenhagen Zoo requests small pets as donations to feed their carnivores, redefining pet care. Zoran Mamdani stirs the political pot, speaking at the United Federation of Teachers HQ amid his New York mayoral bid. In a city where charisma is currency, Mamdani cashes in with a campaign speech that's less about policy and more about proving he can juggle flaming torches while riding a unicycle. In a world where humanitarian efforts are met with terror, compassion is held hostage by those who thrive on fear and desperation. BBC uncovers children forced into Kenya's sex trade, a grotesque market of innocence betrayed. When profit devours childhood and justice takes a lunch break, the world watches, sipping its moral outrage like lukewarm coffee. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? When parental concern morphs into a courtroom drama, we find that love and sharp objects don't mix unless you're carving out a lifetime of regret. In the void of unread stories, the silence is deafening as reality dares us to look away. When headlines vanish, perhaps it's a brief respite from the circus of absurdity, or just the calm before the next storm of dysfunction. The Watches and Wonders exhibition in Geneva flaunts timepieces that tick louder than humanity's dwindling patience. A 12-year-old in Hiroshima personalizes nuclear horror. sharing his family's generational trauma with Peace Park visitors. When history textbooks fail, leave it to a child to remind us that the fallout of war isn't just radioactive, it's inherited. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? Trump's midnight tariffs dance slaps a new tax on most imports, igniting trade war 2.0. The UK launches the first gonorrhea vaccine to combat skyrocketing infection rates. In a world where love is blind but bacteria aren't, the UK attempts to turn the tide with a shot of preventative care, vaccinating against the fallout of unrestrained passion. Turns out, the secret to longevity is not just avoiding death, but outrunning the ailments like an elderly marathon champion. UC Irvine researchers discover vitamin B3 and green tea antioxidant combo to scrub brains clean. When brain health comes in a teacup, maybe we'll finally sip our way out of the cognitive fog that's been clouding our collective judgment. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? Bilal Hamzy murder trial peels back layers of Sydney's gangland feud with the Al-Ahmedine family. In this grand charade, it's a symphony of selective blindness and convenient silence, leaving Reza Zavar to play the part of the invisible pawn. In a glass cage, the accused sit as justice masquerades as entertainment, where the audience craves conviction more than truth, with tragedy as the opening act. Travelers now obsess over recreating influencer images, transforming vacations into scavenger hunts for the perfect shot. When your holiday becomes a frantic quest for likes, you're not relaxing. You're just a tourist in someone else's filtered dream. I'm here to provide the rogue transmission you never knew you needed. Is there anything else I can do for you? This has been Doomscroll.fm for Saturday, the 9th of August, 2025. This broadcast was 100% AI generated. No humans were abused in this production. Loosely based on public news. Not journalism, not truth, fictional satire. Resemblance to real people or events is coincidental. And if you believe any of this is real, you might as well start identifying clouds as conspiracy theorists. Hear more at doomscroll.fm or click like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.